Bethany, and welcome back to my channel. In continuing with my theme of Jane Austen June, I am doing this video where I am going to rank my favorite Jane Austen novels. So for this particular video, I am only focusing on her 6 completed novels. I am not going to be looking at her short stories, such as Love and Friendship, and I'm not looking at Sanditon. And the reason is this. Not anything against Love and Friendship. I think it's a fine short story. I just don't think it has the nuances of some of the other Jane Austen's other novels. I read it a long time ago. I don't really remember it very well. So I just decided not to discuss that one, as well as Sanditon. I really don't have any interest in reading Sanditon, honestly, because why would I read a novel that I'm never going to read the end of? She's gone. We're never going to get the ending of it. We're not going to get the happily ever after. I feel like reading something that doesn't have a clear conclusion is just not something I want to read. I would need the happily ever after for that couple, and so I don't think it's something I'm interested in at this point. Maybe that will change, but at this point, that's kind of how I feel about it. To celebrate Jane Austen June, I am doing a month-long giveaway of this particular book, Northanger Abbey by Jane Austen. I can link it up and down where you can enter in my Guide to Jane Austen video. You can enter there and you just put a comment on what's your favorite Jane Austen novel and or a Jane Austen novel that you want to read. So comment there in that particular video and you can enter the giveaway. And at the end of the month, I will be able to randomly pick one of the winners. Let's go into saying I love all of them. I love all of them as close to equally as possible for various reasons, for different reasons. I think they're all great in their own way. If I had to rank them, these are the ways that I would rank them. Number 5, which is going to be a little bit of a controversial opinion probably, because a lot of the tier rankings that I have seen have rated them much, much higher. But number 5, I'm going to be rating Northanger Abbey. It's my least favorite. Nothing wrong with Northanger Abbey. It's just not for me. And here's why. Northanger Abbey is about Catherine and Henry Tilney. Catherine Morland is very young, very naive. The romance between them is really sweet and really cute, but the book itself is a little bit silly. It's just not as witty as some of Jane Austen's novels, and that makes a lot of sense because it's her first completed novel. And it's just kind of a wild romp. It's a lot of fun, I'm not gonna lie. Also, the thing to know about this particular novel is that it is a satire of Gothic fiction. It is making fun of Gothic fiction, and she wrote it for that purpose. Gothic fiction was very popular for the time that Jane Austen was writing in. This particular book was a satire of Gothic fiction and kind of a critique on Gothic fiction. As a big fan of Gothic fiction, I just can't appreciate that. I can't appreciate that, but that's also the reason why it isn't my favorite. I don't really like it as a satire. It just makes kind of fun of it and makes it really silly. And Gothic fiction to an extent is sometimes a little bit silly, but because it's my favorite, I can't rank Northanger Abbey any higher. Like I said, a lot of the ones that I've seen ranked Northanger Abbey much, much higher than I did. But that's kind of how I feel about it. That's where it lies for me, and those are the reasons that it is that for me. So there you have it. Number 4, I ranked Mansfield Park. Mansfield Park is definitely more of a downer kind of book compared to Jane Austen's other books. Granted, this one also ends up in a happily ever after, but man, it's quite a journey to get there. This is about Fannie and Edmund. There is a lot about social commentary. Fanny is taken in by her wealthy family, and they're a lot. And there's a lot of drama. There's a lot of unlikable characters. Fanny can also be very judgmental and very harsh, but also I love her moral compass. Like, she has a very clear sense of what right and wrong is, even though she's with these cast of characters who right and wrong is all very willy-nilly to them. I can really appreciate that about her, and I like her as a character, but I also think Edmund's one of my least favorite heroes of all the books. It's just not as enjoyable as some of their others. Honestly, I think Fanny should have told all the boys to get lost and not get with any of them. Personally. Because she was better than all of them, really. I still appreciate Mansfield Park for what it is, but that's why it ranks a little bit lower on the list for me. For number 3, I have chosen Sense and Sensibility tied with Persuasion. Don't at me. This is my choice. Look, the thing is, I couldn't decide which one I liked better out of these two. They were just equal because I liked them both so much. First of all, Persuasion is underrated. Not enough people read Persuasion. I feel like several people read Jane Austen and they just skip Persuasion, or they never get to Persuasion, and I think that is a crime. Everyone should read Persuasion, and it's actually really, really great. I like them both for very different things, but just my enjoyment of them and how much I like them just came out tied, came out equal. I just could not pick one over the other. Sensibility, you've got Marianne and Willoughby and Colonel Brandon, and then you've got Eleanor and Edward. Eleanor being so logical and reasonable and cold and somewhat off-putting at times. And then Marianne, you have someone who's so vivacious and emotional and puts her whole heart and feelings into everything. I love these two characters so, so much. And they're really great, and there's something really beautiful about how their romance comes about and how they have come from destitute times, but they end up having really advantageous marriages, and there's something really great and beautiful about that, and the happily ever after is everything. Persuasion, you have two lovers who never got together. This is about Anne and Captain Wentworth. Anne and Captain Wentworth had an engagement. Her family said no. Captain Wentworth was not good enough. He did not have enough money, not enough class. So Anne had to break off her engagement, even though they were madly in love with each other. And there's something really heartbreaking in that. And then the fact that they meet again, and at this point, Wentworth has become Captain Wentworth, and he has made money for himself and has done really well for himself. And Anne has another chance, and there's so much miscommunication, there's so much layers there, there's so much pining there. It's just so, so beautifully done, and I think it's so, so lovely. There's a certain tone in Persuasion that just has a sense of maturity as compared to some of her other books, and I just think that's because due to the fact that Jane Austen wrote it last, and you can see that in the work as well. I couldn't decide. They're both equally great, and I love both of them, so I stand by that. Number 2, I have ranked Pride and Prejudice. Yeah, I guess I'm a basic bitch for that. What can I say? There's just nothing as timeless as Elizabeth and Darcy. You have the original enemies to lovers trope. It's so, so good. Every piece and plot point is just so beautifully crafted and so well done. You have Elizabeth's family and the family ties, and Lizzie's connection to her sister Jane, I think, is really beautifully told. And there's so many elements that I think are just so well done in Pride and Prejudice, as well as the fact Darcy making efforts to make it right for Elizabeth is really the key piece. He's a great hero. I stand by that. There's something effortless in how timeless and how great it is. One of the things that I always like to think about when I watch Pride and Prejudice, I asked my mom once why she watches Pride and Prejudice. At that point in time, I hadn't gotten to the habit of rewatching them. Now I rewatch them all the time. But her comment was, I still need to make sure they end up together. And I feel that, because at some point when you're reading it or when you're watching it, you're still wondering, how are these two going to make it work? They always do. And there's something really fulfilling and satisfying about that. And that's why it comes to number 2. And Lizzie. Lizzie's one of the best heroines, obviously, as well. It's great. It's just great. So it stands at number 2. This also might be controversial because I don't think it's a favorite of everyone else's, but it's my favorite. My Jane Austen favorite is going to stand at number 1, Emma. I know that's kind of probably a controversial opinion. Emma is not considered a favorite. Jane Austen basically talks about how when she started writing this book, she talked about how she was writing about a character that everyone was going to dislike but her. And I just feel that Emma's really difficult to love, but I also kind of love her. I think there's something really great about Emma. And this particular story, I think it's the best written of Jane Austen works, just for me. I don't know why that is. I think just because the story arc and how it evolves and how the characters develop over time, I think is just really well done and really great. I think it has also the best growth of a character. Emma comes a long way in the book, and I think even though she's disliked by a lot of people, I think there's a credit to that, and I think that's what makes also Emma admirable. She learns from her mistakes in a way that some of her other heroines don't necessarily. As well as Mr. Knightley. I will go on and on about Darcy. I think Darcy's a great hero, but Mr. Knightley is my favorite. This is the friends to lovers trope. One of the things that I really, really love about him is that he knows Emma's kind of a hot mess. He knows Emma's kind of a hot mess. He knows her faults and he chooses to love her anyway. And I think there's something really beautiful about that. And I think that is why he's considered my favorite. He gives her a hard time. He doesn't put up with her shit and grounds her in a way that I really, really love. So yeah, that's why I love that particular one. That's why I love Emma. And you can debate with me on that, but that's how I feel about it. Those are my favorites. I don't think I need to illustrate more about why these are my favorites and why I feel the way I do about them. I could probably go on and on. Don't want to give too many spoilers. Don't want to give too much of the plot away, but I feel very strongly about these characters, these books, and I love all of them equally, but just these are the things, the ways that I would rank them as my favorites. Please comment down below and let me know what your favorite Jane Austen novel is, or what your favorite Jane Austen novel adaptation is if you haven't read one, because I'm sure you have at least watched one at least once in your life. I would love to know. Thank you so much for watching. If you like what you saw and want to see more bookish things from me, please subscribe and hit likes and bells. I would really appreciate it. As well as you can follow me on all my social medias that I link down below. And follow me on all the things. I would really love that and appreciate that as well. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you again soon. Bye!